Just want to check with online if you can see the screen or if you can see the presentation mode or the presentation. To be sure what you're working is all right.
We can see the presenter screen, Phil.
Thank you. Yes, awesome.
Yeah, that's fun.
Can show you my face online so you can just check if it's I am the guy that you expected. Maybe. Okay, shall we start? Thank you very much for being here today. Kia ora, everyone. Yeah, hi Douglas. I see some very good people in the room, so I've got some very nice here. So I am Phil Mourot, and I would say that I am both a researcher at the Artificial Intelligence Institute, but also a senior regional hazard advisor at the Waikato Regional Council. And of course, you have seen the topic of today, it's about flood and artificial intelligence. So if you are not living now, if you're interested. But before I started, I really like to show you a bit of a thing that it doesn't sound like it, but I am from France. And after 8 years in New Zealand, I've totally lost my accent. And so it's incredible. And I just want to show you, so how can I get next? Where I come from, actually, from the mountain area here on the French side of the Alps, in a city named Grenoble, where I did my PhD in geophysics. And I spent more like 15 years hiking and climbing the mountain, chasing rockfalls, snow avalanche, debris flows. And I learned a lot in the field about natural hazard. And at this stage, I was developing instrumentation and monitoring system for predicting and anticipate any natural hazard that could happen and impact human life and human structures. So I worked a lot for council, for any organization that have an area to protect. And I've been using a lot of geophysical techniques actually for reaching out this ability of security. But this is the France that I know. But today, France is looking like this actually. It's red. So this is the latest information that we are showing from about 100 districts in France that are in level red crisis, level 4, highest level regarding the droughts, the heat wave that actually impact Europe and especially France. So what does that mean? It means that, as you can see on the right, of course, it's in French, there's different level of alert. And it starts from the first one, which is low, be careful, to the latest one, crisis, on the bottom right. And here the government have to take action regarding the use of water. And that means at this level, water is forbidden to use for any use, even agriculture. And even for people, for drinking water, it's very limited. So we have actually 100 villages in France that don't have access to drinking water anymore. This is totally out. So of course, when you go to France, if you get the luxury sometimes to visit Paris, it's gonna be like this with this nice fountain. But today it looks like there's no more water anymore, restriction, of course. And there is a very nice pictures from satellites showing on the left France in 2021 in July, and on the right the same kind of angle showing lately in July 2022. So it looks very brown for France. So yes, If we are looking to the rainfall, actually, the precipitation from the last 50, 60 years, yes, this month of July is breaking a new record. It's very, very dry than average. 2021, it was a little bit above. This is on the right side of the plot. But we have seen the last 5, 6 years in France, precipitation lower than usual, than normal. And there is consequences, of course, and I just put one actually, for instance, the nuclear plant of Precipitation. This is a place in France that they use to power energy from nuclear. And they have to be shut down because the water of the river, the temperature of the water was too high, so they could not cool enough the engine. So one of the consequences, for instance. But it's not only France. Here is a map of Europe, and released by the Union, the European Union. It's showing that there's a lot of differences. When the heat waves hits France and Germany, England, UK, and a bit of Spain, what we have on the north part in Sweden and Norway, we have unusual wet condition. We have flooding in Sweden and Norway, a lot of flooding. And in France, we have not enough water for people to drink. This is a tweet from yesterday, actually, from the World Meteorological Organization saying that, yes, we had one of the 3 warmest July on record, of course, but what's shocking me is this sentence: Antarctic sea ice lowest on record for months of July. And you know that in New Zealand, we are impacted about what's going on in Antarctica. So here is a zoom of this world map of the surface air temperature anomaly for July 2022. And you can see that the red areas are not specifically over Europe and France and Spain, but we have also some unusual high temperature over Antarctica. That means the ice is melting quicker than expected. I found in an article in July, of course, that we are beating record in France. This is from the famous newspaper, French newspaper, Le Monde, where is written, and I didn't do the traduction, we can get it in English straight away now, or off internet. That was an historical month for drought and heat in France. And I was thinking, oh my God, how is it gonna be in New Zealand? But yeah, it was yesterday, I mean, not yesterday, 3 days ago, that we are beating record in New Zealand as well. In July, for the last month, the wettest July on record for New Zealand. So yes, it's not only breaking record about rain, but also temperatures and wind. But of course, what we get in mind, it's probably the rain. So this is getting down and back to Waikato. So on the left side, I put the Waikato Media Manual total rainfall. So you can see how much rain we could expect in a year in Waikato. So showing the wet area in Waikato, which is on the north, Grenoble, and south in the King Country and Waitomo, and a bit north south of the Lake Taupo. And this on the right is just a screenshot from the Waikato Regional Council website, Environmental Data Hub, where it's showing the cumulative rainfall for the last 30 days. And what it showed that we are getting into extreme. As you can see on the top of the Grenoble, we get actually more than expected, and we reach about 20 to 30% what we should expect in a year in the same area. Same case for the Waitomo, Thausa, and a little bit everywhere actually, so that we got much more water than we use. So let's take a look to probably 3 places in the north here, just in the middle of the Grenoble. Yes, it's showing January to July rainfall in percentage to the normal, and it's showing that July has been twice wet as usual. Okay, for the north of the Grenoble. Let's have a look to here, Kaimai range. And we have a bit of the same pattern, but more rain in May. That means that the last 3 months in this area, the catchments get saturated and saturated of water. So the next drop is not gonna get in the soil, it's gonna get straight away runoff and go to the river. Another example here in the Waikato, where we get, of course, the same kind of pattern from May to July, but we had this kind of things in February with more than 200% of what we should expect in the months. But if we get a quicker look at this February months, this is February, and what it showed that we had almost 180 millimeters in one day, the 12th of February. You probably remember what happened the 12th of February. Actually, it was about the storm caused by the ex-cyclone Dovi, which landed a little bit north of Waikato and have impacted the Mourot village. Here, some pictures from the stuff, and then the Mourot Valley here. And if you know the area, or even if you don't know, I really recommend to visit the Mourot Fort, which is very nice for a picnic on the Sunday, on the sunny Sunday. But what it looks like on the Saturday, 12th of February, was recorded by one of the flood officials of the Waikato Regional Council. Is just amazing the amount of water that's getting down from the fall, and of course all the consequences of all this water causing slips and landslide everywhere. But recently, the 15th of July, yes, we had more flooding, not far actually from Hamilton, but it was not caused by a big storm like the ex-cyclone Dovi. It was just because it was too much. It was just too much. And then the water couldn't stand a chance to get into the river channel. So here north in Hamilton, another very nice footage from Hayden from the Waikato Regional Council showing Huntley. And some of the properties have been impacted by the flooding issue in the area of Huntley. Actually, when I speak about flood, I always started with this slide. This slide showing 2021 Canterbury, West Coast, and the damages. In 2021 was a breaking record again, a record breaking on the amount of insurance claim, about 270 or 280 million of dollars in insurance claims for 2021. And it was just a little bit over the last record, breaking record, which was in 2020, which was about 200 million of dollars of insurance claims. As you can see on the Canterbury side, it was about 50 million of dollar cost, and the West Coast was about 85 million of dollars. But what happened? Just recently on the news, the Insurance Council of New Zealand put a newsletter saying that we have already reached 200 million of dollars of insurance claim, and we haven't taken into account July. So how is gonna be for the 2022? Are we breaking a new record of flood damages in New Zealand? Maybe. Last things to show, this is this last diagram, not to talk about the climate change impact, but showing you on the left side, this is the number of flood by day from 1978 to 2021. So what we used to see in the mid 70s, actually, it was about 1 to 2 flood every year. But today, the new average is about 4 to 7 flood a year. So this came from the TAIYO project, the flood prediction. So I know this is the part 2 of the TAIYO project. The part 1, you're gonna get this in October, so sorry about that. So I have to get you a bit of an overview about what the TAIYO project is. Very quickly, TAIYO is the project won by the University of Waikato in collaboration with University of Canterbury, Auckland, Med-Service, and Baker. It's $13 million, and it's for 7 years. It will end around 2025. So there is 2 main focus on this TAIYO project. First is the main focus is developing data science for environmental issues. But the first part of it is developing tools for analyzing data, and the second one is organizing a platform for accessing to the data. It's open to wide variety of people, from student to software engineer, and the big thing is getting into end-to-end environmental scientists with computer science scientists. So what you should keep in mind about the TAIYO, and if you want to get more information, just go on the website taiyo.ai.com, and what you can find is a bunch of information, a lot of information from tutorials. If you want to learn how to build your first machine learning model, go on it. There is nice tutorials that has been done by the teams, which is over 40 or 50 people. We have notebooks, actually. You don't have to write it from scratch, but use one that a colleague of you have done, and you can reuse it and adapt it for your data. And of course, you can access to data set. It's a repository, it's not a database. So that means it gives you access to publicly available data in New Zealand. So it's just a catalog of where you can find some data and where you can cross and check the environmental issue or problem you want to focus on. And maybe you can find some data that is relevant. I want to introduce the team of the flood prediction. It's not only me, there's a lot of people with me, especially Nick, Guilherme, Justin Paul, and under the supervision of 3 professors at the Artificial Intelligence Institute here, with Albert, Bernard, and Abe. And just to mention that there is a bunch of people here that are really, really high skill that can really help you into your journey using machine learning. So let's go in deep into what you came from, actually, developing a flood prediction tool. And there is 2 aspects of it. When we started the project, we just focusing on building a model, and that's it. And when we had this model in mind, when we had made this machine learning model and it was working quite well, actually, we were very happy, but we thought about how we can use it. I mean, the people from the Waikato Regional Council, they're saying me, how we can really use it? Your tools look very good, but do you have to use it, or can we use it? How we can? And then we think, okay, so maybe it's a good time for deploying it. How we can really deploy a machine learning model? So you have to think about, if you want that your tool you are going to develop, it's just for yourself or your research, but if it's for a real world application, you have to think about the deployment. And actually the deployment is taking us a lot of time, because it's probably the hardest part into developing machine learning. But let's start by the beginning, the machine learning, the cool stuff. Yeah. Here it's a very quick summarize. Actually, I don't want to get into the technical details, but it's showing you one of our best model, showing the month of July 2017. And on the right, we have the rain radar here over the Coromandel. So we focus first for this experimentation on the Coromandel. As you have seen, we were places in Waikato that we can expect a lot of rain. And especially here, the rain gauge in the blue dot is the pinnacles, and on the right we have a river stage gauge, which is at Tairua, and on the other side we have Kaioranga river stage, which is not on the map. But this one is specifically for the Tairua River. So we have on the top left this machine learning model over the observed data. So in blue we have the ground truth, what really happened in July in July 2017, and in orange this is the model. And the model, the predicted model, is giving a prediction in 6 hours in advance. So it's looking really well. We have some detail on the left, all the parameters that you have to use. This is a moving window of 15 days, etc. This is a neural network only using 1 layer. But we run this thing. That's why you get this animation, because we run this model for several epochs. This is what we get a better accuracy of the model. The epoch is a recursive thing that you're getting over and over, and you try to improve the losses. And this is the loss function on the bottom of it. So as long as you can run a model infinite time, but this is not the point. So you have to reach a point which the result is efficient enough and accurate enough that you can stop the model at this stage. Otherwise, it will keep running fine to improve it. There were good learnings on this because what we have probably a bit of a detail that could help for forecasting time series. One of the machine learning algorithm that works very well is LSTM. For long short-term memories. So that means it's a neural network, in a few words, that keep memory of the past. It's not giving up in the future, but it's keep what happened in the past, and then you can reuse it. So you learn over the time. So yes, this is actually kind of a reference in time series forecasting. Whatever you want to forecast, whatever you want to predict, the LSTM is working well, which is very promising, but it was not easy because doesn't mean that LSTM fit for time series forecasting. It will fit your problem. So choosing a machine learning algorithm is kind of a first part, which is not really easy. So you have first to choose it, and then you have to play with the parameters. As I said on the left side, you have to play a little bit with different parameters, which will adjust and tune your model to the reality. That's why when you have a data set, you train it on probably 2/3 of the data set, and you use only 1/3 of the data set for predicting exactly what you want to do. But it's not a perfect solution. Of course, as you can see, it doesn't fit too well, and sometimes it doesn't work. Sometimes it works well. Oops, too late. And the last thing was about for our case of predicting flood in a catchment, we cannot use the same model for the Kayonga and the TAIYO. We have to fit every model for each catchment because you have to learn with the proper data, of course. So the second part of this is about deployment. So probably for giving you a better understanding on how could it work in a real-time operational environment, I have to tell you how we operate at the Waikato Regional Council. So we are managing flood like every regional council in New Zealand. How it works, there is a bunch of very nice people, actually, I love them, just because they are here. And together, we collect the data. So what the data are available is first our hydrological networks managed by the Waikato Regional Council. And we have access as well at the weather information provided by Met Service in New Zealand. So they provide information, and with all that information, as hazards specialist and analyst, we get an understanding how it goes with the experience as well. And then we work with a Waikato Regional Council have developed a framework which is called the Flood Room Live, which is telling our stakeholder and all the public and communities how it goes when something goes wrong, and we got to get prepared, and we are operational. So there is actually 2 stages: the monitoring, where something could happen, so we keep in mind and keep aware that we are aware of all the data, the input, and the information we can get, and activate it. It's when it's something already happened and we have to manage it. So a lot of thing out of it is, of course, different situation report and working close with emergency management for putting that into people. So what we want to do actually, what we want to do is putting our model here just in the middle for helping operational guys that help them to anticipate. So of course, if we can know that a big heavy rain is going to happen in the next 6 hours, that's good. But how is going to be the impact of this heavy rain? Which area is going to be impacted? So this is where we would like the information, right in the middle of the interval. So we have a few challenges, and one of the first challenges is So where we are going to deploy this model, actually, if we have only one source of data, which is probably Waikato Regional Council, let's say that we will put the model in the Waikato Regional Council servers and we're going to run it. But what if we've got several sources of data, for instance? How are you going to manage that? And this is where we got a data governance framework in place, where we have different multitude source of different workflow, and we have to handle it. The second thing, what we want actually for running our model, we want reliable data is reliable and consistent, of course. So we must be sure that the data that we are handling for the model are good enough and well protected, of course. So what is the data management solution? And this is where I'm going to speak about the concept of data meshing. So data meshing is very new. If you don't know about it, don't be shy. This is just new. Even me, I just learned about it a few months ago. So it started in 2019, and it was a response to the growing number of data sources and the need for any business to get more agile. So this is exactly what we need for the flood prediction. We need a model that in the principle is decentralized and distributed architecture. So we don't want to gather all information in one place and fill a lot of database of this such information that we can reuse, but actually we want to access to the data in real time and let the data provider manage their own data and be responsible for their quality and their management. So how we can really build that? So just a comparison with the data mesh with the old traditional way that we are kind of collecting data that we call data lake or data warehouse. This is like it says actually, this is just a house where we could put all the data. And of course, for the machine learning, this is a good way to operate because we have all at hand and we can really operate. But it's not efficient for the long term, and it doesn't fit data-driven approach. This is where we are going now. If we really want to use this artificial intelligence, we really need to have a data-driven approach, even in the data management. So how it goes, just a quick example. This is the traditional data structure that we have put in place. We have one source of information, the Waikato Regional Council, giving the river stage and rainfall from the rain gauge, and send the data to the TAIYO engine, which is building the machine learning things. And then TAIYO is able to predict this model as you have seen before to an operator, to a user actually, probably me as an analyst, and then I'll be able to see what is going to be predict for the next 6 hours. But how does that work if I want to add one other source of information and I want to give the information to the other guys? I don't want to be the only one receiving the information. So we are increasing the input and the output. This is where we got a problem. So what we're gonna do, we have to put this machine learning outside of the box, and we have to get into a box. This, what we call a Kafka system, a Kafka streams. This is our data mesh engine. And actually what it goes, it's just some sort of a highway that is running the information into the output, into the output, etc. So now what we have is a distributed system where every entities, which is an input or an output, can communicate each other. So for instance, Waikato could discuss with a user using the TAIYO, maybe the TAIYO machine learning model, but it could speak as well directly to the user, just providing the information, because everything don't need to go in the machine learning engine. But what we can link to other data warehouse, traditional way of storing data, and then we can access to them into the pipeline, etc. And with this sort of architecture, which is actually what we developed at the ERI Institute, we can see bigger, and we can add more source of information. And this is really a model that's fit data-driven. This is what we want at the end. For better prediction, we need more data. So we can add and work with other entities and not collecting the data, but just using it in real time. So the next step is, of course, this is very nice. This is the engine that is running the core. But what we need is dashboard. So this is what we're working on at the moment. So a way to present the data. It must be online, a website. This is what we actually develop. It must show a map and showing actually where the bad thing is going to happen in the next 3, 6 to 9 hours. So providing with layers, so we're gonna put data that is not processed, like for instance, the rain radar, for instance, some information directly from the instrument, rain gauge or river level, and also some of the prediction that have been running by the machine learning model and give you an understanding on which area is gonna be in trouble with the next heavy rain. But here we're speaking about modeling river stage, what is going on in the river. We can even use a bit of digital elevation model to see how it goes around the river, but we don't know much about the impact. So how we can cross that information with impact, because the main focus here is predicting the impact. This is the way that is going to help our emergency management and communities to respond. So, of course, we can add some layer, but I will call them statics because some stuff of the layer is urban area. It could be buildings. It could be infrastructure that we know where the bridge here, we know where the road here, etc. But we don't know about real time. We don't know where the people are. Where how many people are using this road, how many people are in this hospital, how many people in this school at this time specifically. So we found that we could fill a gap with developing a new application, a mobile application, which is a very simple natural hazard reporting tool. So it works very, it's very simple, and it uses your of course, your smartphone. And what it is an application that it takes a picture, you put a tag, and you submit it. So you've got it, very simple. You take a picture, you just label it because, of course, we will need this label. For instance, you can choose for something else, so something in already predefined, like a flooding, like a fire, like a sinkhole or a landslide, and then you send it to a server. And what we want, of course, at the end of it, what we will have is a nice map with all the points at the picture, because all the pictures will be geolocated. So we've got the GPS tag on the pictures. We can know when and where, and we have an understanding of what happened exactly on this place. And this can be run. This can be used by anybody on the go, and then we can construct a knowledge of information time to time. But at the end, what we would like to do is a bit more than that, more than a dashboard showing what we have, is integrating computer vision modeling on this for helping to determine automatically for some of the images that are not tagged, for instance, that could recognize that it's a flood, and what is impacted, what we can see on the picture. For instance, here, this is an impact, this is a road, and it will give us with the GPS tag of the photo exactly where it is. It could give us a car, it could give us, for instance, recognize automatically a building, etc., etc. So we want to build this database of knowledge with all the people just by taking a picture of it. Another example here, that at the end, we have to get the machine learning, learn how to recognize a flooding or a landslide. And again, the impact. So here, recognize the road. Yes, a few things, what we learned today. So data is the fuel of artificial intelligence. So we need data, of course. More data we have, more prediction we can do. But does that mean that the data that we have will fit your problem? So when you get an issue, and especially an environmental issue, you have to think about what data I need to solve this problem. And then you can run some machine learning, but not go the way around and using machine learning and asking yourself what data I need. Now, machine learning is not a solution, it's just a tool. What we have seen as well is for developing more data-driven approach, we need more data, especially with high quality, but we need as well a more adequate data strategy. We need an environment for managing data that fit the purpose of real-time streaming and getting the information together and not building database or information that we cannot use. And of course, that we have to think about AI like not solving one problem, but multiple problems. For instance, it can fit data recovery, it can fit data cleaning, it can fit the purpose of understanding a problem or understanding a lag or anomalies in data. It can do a lot of things. And of course, you are really lucky here to have the Waikato, in Waikato to have the AI Institute with a bunch of researchers, really high level and skill that could really help you and collaborate in the future. In conclusion, I would like to say that we are organizing a big event. This is the first in New Zealand. Yeah, we bring a new record. So this has been the first hackathon AI for the environment. Is going to happen here in Waikato, but also in 5 places. It's a nationwide event: Auckland, Wellington, Dunedin, and Christchurch. But the main, I would say, the main things will be here at the Waikato University. It's going to happen the 8th and the 9th of September, 2 days. And what we're gonna do here for this hackathon in a challenge event. So you're going to build a team and work on a specific environmental issue, and you're going to use machine learning to trying to find a solution. So the thing is, it's a big collaboration between environmental scientists and of course, computer scientists. So make a team and work on some of the issues that you can help New Zealand to face. And there will be another very big thing, actually. If you want to start with machine learning, there is a very nice course the day before, so the 7th of September, a deep learning course, which is for beginner to intermediate. So even if you just started, you can get this course, a 1-day course here at Waikato, Hamilton, and you can practice for the 2 days during the hackathon. Yes, and I think that's it for me today. Again, the platform, TAIYO.ai, for more information, and the hackathon. And I'm happy now to take any question if you have. Thank you very much.
Any questions here? Now is the Q&A. Yes. We have about 20 minutes to. Yeah.
So I have 2 questions. In regards to the citizen science approach, are you considering like Survey 123 as like a platform for having the geolocated photos and labeling kind of as an automated system? And then the second question is for the for how the flood is impacting things. Have you considered using fragility functions as like a % damages for buildings or structures?
Yeah, that's very good. Thank you. So the first one, yes, we thought about the Survey 123. We wanted to develop one on our own because we wanted to well manage the engine behind for the computer vision. I know that now Esri is developing a lot of things, but we are, I mean, the team is more a computer science than geospatial scientists. So I think for a guys and a GIS expert will go to the survey, but I think it's a very good tool, and we use Survey 123 actually for the web for different things. It's working well. We really wanted to push a little bit more further. We didn't know much about the how we can get into the system of the S3 things. So that's why we decided to create one on our own. But yeah, there is, you're right to mention that when there is tool outside, it's better to use it. But when it's handled by big company, yeah, we don't want to have the AI as a black box. We want to manage and control it as well. So really, different things. For the second thing, it's about fragility function. So this is where you get into the risk assessment, and I've got high specialists over there, so I will try not to say wrong things. But they say that the stage when you want to analyze the exposure and the risk, so when you want to correlate, there's damage into dollars, into money actually. The thing is, fragility function is not uniform. It depends on country, it depends on a lot of things, and it depends on a lot of areas actually, and it's very hard to use. So there is nice, again, using something that already exists, Rescape. Very nice software is doing that stuff, and I highly recommend to use it because scientists from New Zealand are working on this fragility function. Because if you want to use a European fragility function for the road, for instance, then you're gonna get probably wrong information about how it could cost if you are impacted. So careful a lot with the fragility function. This is probably the thing that the weakest point into the risk assessment when you want to convert these damages to dollars. But yeah, there is Rescape, very nice software. And no, I'm not doing it in this case because I don't want to see how much it's going to cost. This is insurance. I want to see where are the people how to save. Yes, Rick.
So Phil, in terms of the prediction tool and using obviously a lot of data to feed into the into those processes, I would have thought that the weather prediction side is quite important. So even if you are able to get some really good predictions using existing data of rain that has fallen and how that rain can propagate through the systems, but do our forecasting predictions need to be better to be able to get better flood predictions?
So do you mean that we could use prediction into our prediction model, prediction data into our prediction model?
So in terms of Met Service forecasting,
yeah,
is the accuracy of their forecasting sufficient to be able to enable your flood forecasting predictions, or does the Met Service forecasting need to increase to get your better predictions?
So actually, we do not use any data that has been modeled. So we don't use any forecasting weather. That's why. And this is where you can just adding a lot of uncertainty into your model if you are using data from another model. So for this project, actually, we are just using real data from the field. That means only what happened, and try to predict the future just with the data that we have, and not the data issue from model. Because we can also use, for instance, this is a very good example. We have used actually the rain forecast from Met Service, and it didn't improve. I could have shown you a different plot that we got. It didn't improve at all. Our prediction was really weird. And at some point we wanted to add how the catchment is, the state of the catchment actually, when you have, for instance, 3 months of rain, it's really saturated, and we don't have a lot of soil moisture data in the catchment. So we wonder maybe we could use some of the soil moisture model from NIWA, for instance, that they have modeled the soil moisture in different places to grid over the Waikato area, and to improve it. But this is how you can handle the uncertainty from the soil moisture, from the issued by a model, to put into another model. And this is exactly the example as well when you get the river stage and you got the rating curve actually from the stage to the flow. And of course, this relation may be updated quite often or otherwise. But at some point, this is also a model. So at some point, it could impact on the prediction as well. So I think that I don't want to say that we don't want to use any data from model, because the good thing of AI, we can build data that we don't have. But be careful of, adding up a lot of uncertainty from this model and you are not able to handle all the uncertainty together. Yeah.
I think we have one hands up on Zoom. We should turn up the volume, and so we can hear that.
Can you hear us?
Hey, John, can we speak?
Yes. Hello, Phil. I just have a question. So on slide 35, so you show parameters include rainfall and river levels, and using machine learning, you can predict river levels and rainfall. I'm just curious, could you show flood extent on slide 45, the dashboard? There's a flood extent and stuff. So I'm curious how you get flood extent from the input parameters like river levels and rain.
Break up a little bit.
You're breaking out a little bit. So you said about the dashboard, right? And you wanted to know about geospatial information about dashboard, how we can get the information of this about this. Sorry, I didn't get it.
Yeah. So the dashboard, there's flood extent. So I'm wondering how you can predict this flood extent with input parameters like river levels and rainfall.
Oh, cool. Okay, I get it. So, so this is actually another part of the project, which is using geospatial information and DEM for LiDAR information, for instance, when we can extend. This is what we do actually for flood modeling. This is where the model is giving the way that when it's the embankment of the river is going to the low-lying area. So it's just playing with the DEM a lot, which is not totally AI. We've got tools to do it for having the extension when you put an amount of flow in the rivers, actually, which use a lot of LiDAR information and different hydrologic parameters. But we don't do any AI on extension, actually, not yet.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I got two quick questions. So I'm sorry, I'm just trying to clarify from the previous question earlier. So you don't use any Met Service forecast data to feed in.
Correct.
So the timescales with which you can look out into the future is basically the length of time between the rain falling at some station up catchment, and then you can provide information about how flooding will occur down catchment. Is that right?
Right. Yes.
Okay. So does that mean that you're quite constrained as to the first of all the length of time over which this heavy rainfall event will occur? So you might be able to do some things better for a 1 day extreme versus a 5 day extreme versus a 1 hour extreme. So I guess that the quality of the information you might be able to provide will be constrained based on, I guess, the size of the catchment that's involved in the area. Is that right?
So this is where you want to put some physics on it. So actually, when we use the data-driven, we do not use any kind of hydrological parameter of the catchment. So the size, the slopes, the vegetation coverage, etc., etc. We don't put it into the machine learning. We only use the data that we have, which has been measured on site, which is only points. That's why the rain gauge is giving us the amount of water at 1 point, but this is why we are using the rainwater, because the rainwater is gridded. So we can get the amount of water at some sort of, I don't remember the size of the sail, but each sail is a catchment. So we can sum up, for instance, and delineate these catchment, for instance, with the rainwater and having a better overview of the amount of water in the catchment and not at the specific rain gauge. And of course, we use the river stage, which is measured at the gauge at the bottom, of course, of the catchment. And the next question will be, if you don't have the information, can you do something? It's under research. This is a good point. How we can deal with ungauge engorge catchment. We are looking on it, but not very actively for the moment. But there is a few things that we can use, and we hope that maybe in the future with some satellite images and satellite product, we can probably having this information from space, even if we don't have this from the field.
I guess a very quick follow-up to that is, to what extent will the quality of the information you provide depend on how extreme historic event you've seen in the time series and the input data that you're feeding in?
Yeah.
You know, is there a way in which you might be able to get a gauge as to, oh, the worst thing on record for the records that we have was actually not that bad, whereas somewhere else it was, you know?
Exactly. It's a very good point, actually, because theoretically, you cannot predict something that never happened in the past. So you can predict only something that could have happened in the past, but this is some sort of machine learning. But there is new algorithm that is looking at them of detecting the extreme. And this is where we all about climate change and what the climate model that they are using, actually, because nothing happened in the past, and we really have to predict what is going to be in the future. So it's working on different aspects of it, which is extreme detection and extreme prediction, which is another topic I reckon. But yeah, that is a very good point. Yeah, thanks. Yes.
I have a question, maybe simple, but I wonder what's the advantage of using machine learning instead of physically based models, and at which stage is this advantage? Is it the time, simulation time? Is it the number of parameters?
That's good. Yeah, actually, because with a few, I would say, with some data, you can predict something, but with a physical model, you need a lot of data from understanding the catchment and the hydrological aspect of the catchment, and you need high quality data. So if something wrong in the data, your physical model at the end will be wrong. So it's really hard to handle. Machine learning, we are not looking at all of the stuff. So it's not working better, it's not working well. Sometimes it's working much better, but sometimes not, because there is a lot of other parameters, which is totally computer things. But it's in time processing. So I can model and predict the next 6 hours in probably 1 hour, 2 hours time, which is take, for instance, for having the weather prediction 6 to 9 hours for a new model, a forecasting model, which is based on physics. So we hope that we can get this information more in real time, more quickly, and using less power as well, because I cannot run any weather model on my computer, but I can run a machine learning model for predicting a river stage on my laptop. Yeah. Yes.
So I have 2 questions following up from some other ones. First one, this is obviously your expertise area, not mine, but is the model taking into consideration both historical information for the catchment and what's currently falling at the same time to help predict the impact? Yeah.
Yes, correct.
So, and then from that, considering that climate change is happening and the intensification of rain is becoming worse, and as we're seeing it just in this past month, how is the model taking into consideration that and kind of, I guess, minimizing the uncertainties around that to help us communicate with communities and sort of fence the potential impacts with these events that we've never really seen before?
Yeah. So again, we can probably, I never thought about it, but we can probably put some of the factor or parameters which could get an idea with the climate change and things like that. We can do with the RCP, etc. So we're adding some coefficient maybe to take into account what it could be in the future. But it's not the goal of the. I think this is not the goal, and it's probably only my actually understanding on how to use machine learning. But the thing is, we can use it as another input. For instance, I want to predict the climate change because I would like to, I've got the historical data, but as we said before, we cannot predict something that never happened. So what we should use another set of data that could help us to to replicate or getting a better accuracy on the stage of the river stage, for instance, or the rainfall, using another information that we get about climate change. And what I can say, when I said, for instance, we can really be open to any kind of data. For instance, in my model, is using only a river stage and rainfall, but I could use the ice melting in Antarctica. Why not? It could help me, the variation over time of the ice melting of Antarctica will probably get a new information into the model for getting more accurate. I can use social information, social data as well. People are moving, whatever, economic data, economical data as well. I can use any kind of data, of course, that it could be relevant. So one you have to think about, there's data that you can put, I cannot put, for instance, the size of my shoes or the size of the every shoes in New Zealand is data related to the topic, of course, you understand. But if you think that there is a variable that could impact the model, you can easily put it into the model and see how it goes. As I said, the first thing that I saw at the start was to put the rain forecast from Met-Service. I said, oh, Met-Service is already giving us the next 6 hours. Why not using it? And then maybe I will get better prediction. But actually, it was not worse, but it was not better at all. So it was not, you know, and you see in machine learning, such LSTM algorithm, which is based on neural network. This is a big factory. This is something that I don't think that a lot of people understand really how it works. So even for me, it's still a black box. I'm using the LSTM, and I know that I could play with different parameters, different input, different data, and I could get a better output. But I'm not, and my role actually, I'm not good enough to understand how it works for getting the right parameters. But I know that I can use something that I will never use for a physical model. For instance, the ice melting, for the Antarctica ice melting, but probably in a data-driven approach, yes, any kind of information could fit into it. Yeah.
One question. So what I understand now is that the Met-Service has moved to a best prediction model where they look at the ensemble and then they manually pick the one that they think the meteorologists think is the best. So what that means is that on any given 2 days, you may have weather forecasts underpinned by different physics model. How would that affect the performance of your machine learning model?
So I think using the ensemble, it's also a goal for the machine learning prediction as well. What it's going to do is doing a lot of model outside and trying to find which one is going to fit, and then doing some kind of averaging things over that exactly on the same way but not using the physical one. So how it's going to impact? I don't know. I think it's always, I don't know. Maybe I don't know. Simple as that. That's a good question. Keep in mind. Thank you.
So including all of the other data sets that you can include, has there been consideration of also using this for coastal flooding applications as well?
Exactly, that's a very good point. So we can put, for instance, tides, we can put a storm surge information into it, and we can focus on a specific area which is on the coast, and then we're gonna have a prediction on the inundation on the coastline. Yes, totally. Yes, effectively. Yeah, any kind of information, and you can drive your model out of it. So of course you are getting from the fluvial to the coast, of course. So you're shifting a little bit of your goal. But if it's where you want to go, yes, yeah, totally. Yeah.
I have one more question. And is that viable to consider the effects of the sediment transport in the future in the model? Producing some in the South Island, there could be quite a lot of the flash floods, and the riverbed channel can be raised quite a lot, or incised quite a lot by the flash floods. So that will change the extent of floods in a very short time. And how do you think it will impact the efficacy of the model in the future?
A lot. Yeah, it's exactly that. When you have actually an event that is happening, just after the event, the hydrologists should go in the field and take a new museum and gauging again the river and getting the new value of the profile and the velocity of the river. Because exactly when you have deposit erosion, things like that, and you change the way that the next information that you got, the next data, that means the next river stage, is not exactly the same physical conditions. So of course, the machine learning will take into account this is the data, but it will see some continuity, and maybe it will drift the model a little bit on wrong prediction, and it will probably after a while stabilize and get back to normal. But yeah, the good thing would be that when you got from an event like this, and we have a lot of sediment transport and changing of the channel shape, it could be it could impact a lot in the model. Yes. Yeah.
Good. Any more questions? Okay, if not, I think we have reached 1 hour, so I think we can end this seminar. And thank you very much for attending this one.
Thank you very much.
And we
Thank you.
it's pretty much like okay.
Wow.
Well, speaker.
Thank you. Really appreciate it.
It's all about both.
Thank you, everyone. Be in touch. Any question? Really happy collaboration. If you want to make a link with Waikato Regional Council or AI Institute, if you want to get some guys around and working with you on a program, just here we can reach out, and then I will happy to be in touch with you. Thank you very much.
Very nice. Just one now about the sorry. Should be fine.